In a football game, tactics should be one of the most important things. Sure, the overall ratings of your players is probably more important, but do tactics actually matter in career mode? Well, that sounds like a fun experiment that we can do together. This video is more of a test to see how simulation matches play out. Tactics are going to be the first of 5 variables that I'm going to check, so we need to make sure that this experiment is fair for every single team. The idea behind the video is this: we're going to make every single team even on the pitch in every single way other than their formation. Things like prestige, transfer budget and manager shouldn't really make a difference, so we're not going to change those, at least until we figure out what things actually matter when it comes to simulating a full season. So, I'm using a tool called RDBM, which lets me mass edit the FC25 database. With this, I've set every single player to 80 rated at every single attribute. Every player is 80 overall, every player is 31 years old, and every player has 80 potential. This is every single team and every single player in the game. Whether it's Lionel Messi, Dan Burn or Endrick, you're all exactly the same other than your height. I then went into the team sheets for every single club and set each club in the Premier League to have a different formation. Thankfully, this is now super easy to keep track of on the league table, as FIFA Live Editor now lets us change team names. So our Premier League table looks like this. There's a good spread of formations, and I didn't use variations like the 4-3-3 brackets 4, just to make things a little bit easier for me to keep track of. It took me a lot longer than that to actually set this up, but it's time to simulate our first season. I'll be in charge of 4-3-1-2 FC, or Nottingham Forest as you might know them. While the season simulates, I was thinking about what results I was expecting. Would height and weight actually matter? Would the fact that international prestige increases overall rating matter? Would stadium size matter? Well, let's have a look and see how the year ended. Other than the total points being a little bit more even than in a regular season, this could just be a regular season. I was actually half expecting there to be a string of formations that were clearly doing well, but the bottom half of the table isn't much different. Ipswich, Brentford and Brighton are towards the bottom, and they all have 4 at the back formations, while Manchester United, Liverpool and Chelsea are all at the top, and they all also have 4 at the back formations. It doesn't seem like 5 at the back or 3 at the back is actually going to make too much of a difference, but I can't draw any conclusions from just one test. We're going to run it again, and again, and again, and this second simulation will have the exact same test values as the first simulation. No changes have been made, and let's see if we can spot any patterns when it comes to formations in the simulation gameplay. So, after a surprisingly long time, I can't believe how slow it is to simulate a season on this year's game, we are ready to look at our second league table. Turns out Ipswich, Brentford and Brighton are right down the bottom yet again. How strange. At the top, Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City are all up there. There has to be something more going on here, right? Surely the 4-1-3-2 isn't that bad of a formation. Don't forget that all of these teams are exactly the same in every way when it comes to their players and the players that they can use in every single match. Well, I also found out that Ipswich and Brentford are 2 of the lowest ranked teams when it comes to domestic and international prestige. Surely this isn't something that actually makes the biggest difference when it comes to simulated matches, right? Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City happen to have the 3 highest values in the league here too, so I think it's time to make a quick change to the prestige values for Simulation 3. This time, we've maxed out the prestige for Ipswich and Chelsea, while we've dropped Brentford and Liverpool down to 1. If prestige matters, then you would expect Ipswich and Chelsea to end up in the top 5, or at least the top half, while Brentford and Liverpool should drop down into the bottom 5. For the 3rd time in this video, let's simulate again. The score animation makes simulating a season take so much longer, I wish I could turn that off, but still, we're now already ready. This is the same season, simulated for the 3rd time. We're not in Season 3, this is Season 1 simulated 3 times. Look at this table. Liverpool are now in the bottom 5 with Brentford, while Ipswich finished mid-table and Chelsea won the league by 12 points. I really didn't want this to be the case, but because every team is even when it comes to the players, prestige is something that seems to matter more than anything else that we've found so far. Sure, Ipswich didn't make the top half, but if we ran this exact same test another 5 times, I'm sure they would average higher than 11th place. Liverpool's drop-off is just as irritating. I was expecting tactics to make the biggest difference, but it fully seems like it's prestige and the games aren't simulated in any way. In fact, I now want to check how much player rating does actually affect things. So I'm going to give a low prestige team and a high prestige team 3 99 rated players and keep everyone else in the league at 80 overall. Hopefully, both of these teams will finish in the top 3 and will prove that matches are actually simulated in some way. That would make sense, right? 3 players being 19 overall higher than every other player in the league should make them lead the league on goals, assists and clean sheets. So, in our 4th season sim, we're giving our 1 prestige Ipswich and our 10 prestige Manchester City 3 players who are rated 99 in every attribute. I would expect Delap and Haaland to be the top scorers, while Broadhead and Bernardo should probably be the top assisters, and Edison and Walton should get the most clean sheets. We've done another long simulation now, and we're at the end of the year for the 4th time. But where are Ipswich? Well, they're in 1st, with by far the most points of any team in this video. They have a much lower prestige than City, but have ended up winning 4 more matches than City, scoring a similar amount of goals and actually just losing 4 less games. To be honest, the predictions about the good players being better at scoring goals and getting assists is probably kinda accurate, but I think now we can make some pretty confident analysis about everything in simulation after our experiments. So let's start. Firstly, an equally good team with the exact same ratings will actually use their domestic prestige to partially decide matches. This is not a guaranteed win, but the higher your prestige, the more games you win. This is something that we've observed in the Premier League, obviously, already in this video, but when I checked La Liga in Simulation 3, the exact same thing was happening there. Barcelona, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid were all towards the top of La Liga. This isn't always the case, of course. We've seen Spurs be quite low down the table in a couple of these simulations, and they have a pretty decent prestige rating themselves. But as a general rule, the higher your club's prestige rating in equal matches, the more matches you are going to win. The second thing that we found is that having high rated players does actually make your team perform better. Even though Haaland and Delap didn't outscore everyone by miles, they were both in the top 5 for scorers, and the same can be said for the assists and clean sheets. The fact that Jeremy Doku somehow outscored Erling Haaland is something I might have to look into in a future experiment, but it does seem that having higher rated players does make your team perform better. I know from previous experiments that stat distribution does not matter when it comes to simulation, so if you have the choice between a 3 sprint speed 87 rated striker or a 99 sprint speed 81 rated striker, you should always go for the higher rated players if you're not going to be playing the matches. Finally, the first thing we tested was formation, and it doesn't seem like there's really any link between formations and how you perform on the pitch. 4 at the back formations did seem to average the highest overall finishes, but that wasn't by a huge amount. I'm going to assume that formation is just a really minor check when it comes to the match simulation algorithm, and is probably mainly used to pick as many highly rated positions in the squad as possible. If you have 4 99 rated defenders and the rest of your team is 80 overall, then you're wasting some talent by only playing a 3-5-2. And that's the 3 things that I'm going to take away from the experiments we've done today. Hopefully you found it interesting looking into the world of simulation settings when it comes to FC25. It was a little bit annoying to see how much domestic prestige actually does impact the matches, and I guess that is just something that EA's fudged in there to try and make the league tables look a little bit better when you've got a high rated squad. However, if you want to take one of the low rated squads up to the Premier League, you just need to pick the one with the highest prestige, so that's probably going to be someone like Bradford or Wrexham. But thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it if you've watched this much. I know it's a little bit of a niche video to make, but thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.